The stadium lights always seemed brighter when his father was by his side. From the time he was a boy, baseball had been their language, the way they connected when words felt too small. His father, once full of life and energy, had a laugh that could echo across the stands, filling the space with warmth. But age has a way of taking pieces of us, and slowly, his father's body began to betray him. First it was the cane, then the chair, and eventually the quiet silence that comes with a man learning to accept his limitations. It was on a summer evening, after another doctor's visit, that the promise was made. The father sat by the window, his hands trembling slightly as he held a worn baseball. He confessed he was afraid he'd never feel the joy of a live game again. His son, moved by the heaviness in his father's eyes, made a vow without hesitation. He promised that as long as there were games to watch, his father would be there. He would carry him if he had to. And so, the journey began. The first time he lifted his father into his arms, it was harder than he expected. His father's body, once strong and sturdy, felt heavier not because of the weight itself, but because of what it represented: the shift of roles. The son now supporting the man who had always carried him through life. The walk to their seats was long. Strangers stared, some whispering, some offering help, but he always shook his head gently. This was his duty, his honor. As they sat together in the stands, his father's eyes lit up in a way that made every strain of the climb worth it. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of popcorn in the air, all of it wrapped around them like a second heartbeat. The father cheered like a boy again, and the son watched him, knowing this was about more than baseball. This was about giving back moments that time had threatened to steal. That first game was only the beginning. Each stadium became a chapter in their story. Each seat a testament to the strength of love. And yet, in the quiet of the night after the games, the son would sometimes sit awake, his arms aching, his mind heavy with questions. How long could he keep this up? What would happen when the weight became too much? Still, he never let those doubts show. He had made a promise. And promises, especially to a father, are meant to be carried like sacred treasures. The promise carried him through many nights, but the weight of love was not without its trials. Each game demanded more from him than just strength of muscle. There were days his back ached so badly he could hardly stand straight. Mornings when he woke with bruises along his arms from supporting his father's frame. Yet he never once considered leaving his father behind. To him, the weight was not a burden, it was a reminder of what love required. Still, reality crept in with its quiet tests. Tickets were costly, travel was exhausting, and his modest paycheck seemed to vanish with every new game. Friends told him to slow down, to take care of himself, to let someone else help. Some even suggested his father might understand if they missed a few, but the son could not accept that. The memory of his father teaching him how to swing a bat, cheering for him even when he struck out, carried too much meaning. Missing even one game would feel like betraying the very core of who they were together. The stares became familiar too. At every stadium, people would watch as he carried his father, some with pity, others with admiration. Sometimes a stranger would clap him on the shoulder and whisper words of encouragement. Other times, he overheard comments about how foolish it was, how he was wearing himself down. But when he looked at his father's face, glowing with joy, as the team ran onto the field, all those voices faded. What mattered most was the sparkle in his father's eyes, a light brighter than any stadium floodlight. There were moments, though, when doubt crept in. On long drives home, he would grip the steering wheel tightly, exhaustion washing over him like waves in a storm. He questioned his strength, wondered if he was doing enough, feared the day his body would give out before his heart did. Yet every time those thoughts threatened to pull him under, he would glance at his father beside him, asleep in the passenger seat, a faint smile still on his face. And in that quiet moment, he knew the answer: he could endure. He must endure. Through each game, each inning, each cheer, he began to notice something changing within himself. What started as a vow, made in love, became a transformation of spirit. The act of carrying his father was reshaping him, teaching him resilience, patience, and the unshakable truth that love is strongest when it is tested. Each time he lifted his father, he was on just carrying him to his seat. He was carrying the weight of a lifetime of memories. And somehow, that weight felt lighter with every step. The last game came quietly, without warning, as if life had been saving the most poignant inning for the end. His father had grown weaker over the months, his voice softer, his movements slower. Still, he insisted on one more game, one more chance to feel the pulse of the crowd and the rhythm of the bat against the ball. The son knew deep down what this meant, though neither of them spoke it aloud. That evening, as he carried his father up the steps, the weight felt different, not heavier, but sacred. The crowd seemed to fade into silence, even though the stadium was alive with noise. Every step was a prayer, every heartbeat a reminder that this might be the last time he would hold his father this way. When they finally reached their seats, his father looked out over the field with eyes full of gratitude, as if he were soaking in not just the game, but the very essence of being alive. The innings passed, each pitch and swing weaving themselves into memory. His father cheered softly, his voice carrying less power but no less spirit. At one point, the son looked over and saw tears glistening in his father's eyes. They weren't tears of sorrow, but of joy at having lived this promise. Joy at being carried not just into the stadium, but through the final chapters of his life with love at the center. When the game ended, the crowd roared, but for the son and his father, it was the silence between the cheers that mattered most. On the way back, his father leaned his head against his son's shoulder, whispering words that trembled like a candle flame in the wind. He thanked him not for the games, not for the strength, but for the love that had never wavered. A few weeks later, his father passed away peacefully, and though the son grieved deeply, he carried no regret. He had kept his promise. He had given his father every game, every cheer, every shared glance beneath the stadium lights. The memory of carrying him became not a source of pain, but of pride. From that day forward, whenever he walked past a ballpark, he felt his father's presence with him, as though the weight he once carried had transformed into wings. The son realized he had not only fulfilled a vow, but discovered a truth that love, when lived fully, does not vanish with death. It remains, echoing like the crack of a bat under the summer sky, eternal and unbroken. There are promises we make that shape the very core of who we are. Carrying his father was never just about baseball, it was about love made visible through action, about devotion that spoke louder than words. His story reminds us that the greatest legacies we leave behind are not in trophies or records, but in the moments we choose to carry one another when life grows heavy. May we all remember to honor those promises, no matter the weight, for they are the ties that outlast even time itself. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, share, and comment with your thoughts. And if you wish to hear more stories of love, resilience, and human spirit, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive.